Did you hear about the painter who was hospitalized? The doctors say it was due to too many strokes. Today, I'm going to recap a 2020 action thriller film called The Last Days of American Crime. A quick warning, there will be major spoiler ahead. Graham Brick is torturing a man looking for his money. The man tells him the Dumois family is never going to stop hunting him. He tells Graham that his boy, Johnny D., gave him up. Graham leaves the man covered in gasoline with a lit cigar in his mouth. As he walks away from the building, the apartment explodes. The world is riddled with crime, and the U.S. government announces the American Peace Initiative, or API, a neuroblocker that once activated will affect people's brains, preventing people from committing acts they know to be illegal. People attempt to flee to Canada, but many are killed during the attempt. Flashback to 1 year ago, Brick and his crew were the best bank robbers. As long as they gave the Dumois crime family their cut, they were free to act as they wanted. Brick's brother Rory prepares to go to his prison, and Brick tells him to survive. 6 months later, the government tested their API device, and during the middle of a bank robbery, Brick and his crew suddenly are halted. They flee with the money they have, and one of the crew even gets killed. Dumois' henchman Lonnie comes to Brick for his money, and Brick lies and says he no longer has it, saving it to get to Canada. Brick receives a letter that Rory killed himself in prison. Then, once Johnny D. sold him out and the Dumois family got his money, he had nowhere to go. Brick finds and executes Johnny D. Brick meets Shelby Dupree at a bar and they have sex in the bathroom. Kevin Cash comes looking for Brick. He was in prison with Rory and saw Rory murdered by the API signal and prison guards. Not suicide like Brick was told. He tells Brick he wants to steal $1 billion from them as revenge. The government is buying back stolen money from criminals, since once the API is activated the money will be useless, and it will all be in one place. Shelby appears, revealing herself as Kevin's fiancée. They reveal a plan to disrupt one API tower just long enough to complete a heist and make it to Canada before the signal takes over. Brick eventually agrees to join them, but doesn't trust them. Meanwhile, Officer William Sawyer is held at gunpoint in the precinct by two people looking for drugs, and he manages to get the gun and shoot one of them, and is sent home. Brick takes over the job. He needs a few things, including cone warheads that can fight tanks. The only place to steal them from beside the U.S. Army is the Dumois family. Brick reveals he has figured out that Kevin is Dumois' son. Brick demands to know the truth. Kevin explains that he wants to be out from his family's shadow and legal legacy as having done the last crime in American history. At a club, Brick learns that Shelby is a skilled hacker, and hears from Kevin that the API signal is impossible to fight. Later, Sawyer returns to the police station and pleads to be put out on duty, and his supervisor relents. While many police are moving to new jobs, those who stay on will receive an implant that will prevent API from affecting them so they can use force on the citizens. Sawyer asks if he can apply for one and later is given one. Shelby and Brick sleep together again. The next day, Brick meets with his old friend and driver, Ross, to recruit him for the billion-dollar job, then goes to see a government official, Jack Morgan, and makes arrangements to trade money in. Shelby helps make counterfeit money to swap with the real money, then goes to meet with FBI agents. It turns out she is an informant for them because they are holding her younger sister in their custody. Because Shelby gives them information on the heist, the agents allow Shelby's sister safe transport to Canada. But if she doesn't cooperate, they assure her that her sister will be harmed. It turns out Brick has been following her and witnesses the interaction. Kevin drives Brick to the Dumois compound. After being searched, they are let into the swanky party where Kevin and his sister lead Brick to Rossi Dumois, Kevin's father. Rossi thought Kevin was dead. He tried to have Kevin killed after Kevin had sex with his second wife, who Rossi later murdered. Rossi pulls out a gun and shoots Kevin, but Kevin throws a weapon off the wall into Rossi's head, seemingly killing him. A wounded Kevin leads Brick to a stash of weapons, and they shoot their way out of the office. They retrieve the warheads and flee. On the way out, Kevin's sister shoots at him, and he kills her as well. Lonnie discovers Rossi dead and is furious. Brick confronts Shelby over her working with the FBI and pulls a gun, but is knocked out by Lonnie. Lonnie ties Brick up and beats him bloody, determined to find Kevin. Shelby stops them by admitting she's Kevin's fiancée and that she's the way they'll get to Kevin. Lonnie brings in the man from the beginning who Brick tortured and gave the cigar to, who is disfigured but survived the explosion. He begins torturing Brick, then sets a fire and leaves Brick to die as Shelby looks on in horror. They drive off, and Ross arrives and narrowly rescues Brick before the entire camper explodes. Ross drives Brick to follow Lonnie, who has Shelby hostage in the backseat, and they engage in a long shootout and chase. Eventually, Brick's car gets flipped, and he climbs out and steals another one. Lonnie ties up Shelby and injects her with heroin. He then begins tearing her clothes off to rape her, but Brick arrives and strangles Lonnie from behind, killing him. He then carries Shelby out. Later, he asks Shelby about the FBI. She tells him they're after Kevin, and that her sister will be hurt if she doesn't comply, and they share a kiss. Kevin arrives, and the crew goes over the plan. Shelby and Ross steal a military truck, which Ross drives into HT military compound. Then Shelby goes and meets a man named Carl, with whom she had previously established a flirtation. He's in charge of starting the API signal. She gets to his office and then subdues him. Brick brings the money for the government exchange in and gets the real money. But as he and Kevin are leaving, Morgan lights a bill on fire and realizes it is counterfeit, leading to a shootout. Brick and Kevin make their way to the vault. Shelby hacks into the computer system just as the API is launched, stopping Kevin and Brick as they are working on blowing open the vault. Shelby disrupts the signal, allowing Kevin to finish setting the detonators. Ross meets up with them, and they load the truck up and escape. Sawyer shows up and catches Shelby and demands to know what is going on. The government manages to get the signal running again, halting Ross and Brick, but not Kevin, who shoots and murders Ross as Brick screams in horror. Kevin tells Brick how in prison the guards would test the API by forcing him and Rory fight, and then turning the API on. They made them do it over and over, and eventually Kevin learned how to overcome the API. When he broke through the API, he killed Rory himself, which got him out of jail. He explains that now he doesn't feel anything anymore, and shoots Brick in the stomach, then again in the side of his head, blowing his ear off. He tells Brick he's a superhero, and Brick asks if he's bulletproof. The FBI agents appear and shoot Kevin over and over until he dies. The two agents reveal in front of Brick that they plan on killing Shelby next to close the case, having lied to her about her safety, and leave Brick to bleed out and die. Brick takes a deadly pill he purchased earlier, which should kill him. Instead, it ends the API effect, and he shoots and kills the two agents. He gets in the truck with the money and drives off. Meanwhile, Shelby attempts to flee from Sawyer, and the two get into a physical brawl until the API begins affecting Shelby. She keeps fighting back, and frustrated and enraged, Sawyer begins strangling her, but she rolls him off the table onto a shard of glass that goes through his neck. Shelby detonates and blows up the facility's server before leaving. Brick arrives in the truck and retrieves Shelby. They kiss as they drive the truck through the first barricade before the Canadian border troops shoot at them. As they approach the final border, they sustain more gunfire but plow through. The next morning, as he struggles to stay alive, Shelby tells Brick she loves him, just before he dies. She takes a bag full of money and leaves before the police arrive to the scene. Sometime later, Shelby goes with her sister and spreads Rory's ashes into a lake and drives off, living free in Canada. If you enjoyed this video, don't be shy, hit the like button, and if you disliked it, hit the dislike button twice just to be sure. You should watch the full movie. Thank you very much for watching.